We look at the cultural aspects of video games pretty frequently on this channel. We talk about all the crazy thing that's happening in the video game industry and we laugh at it, right? But oftentimes it's very hard to articulate exactly why we are so critical of everything that's happening. And I found a video today that really does a phenomenal job of articulating exactly how many of us are feeling. And we're going to get to that in just a minute. But this starts with the new Ghost of Yotoy. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that video game that's coming out, or at least that was just announced. And there's been a lot of talk about that game. There's a lot of controversy right off the bat of like, oh my gosh, another female character. And this is the game that I'm speaking of. Obviously, this was just announced very recently. So there was a lot of pushback. People were like, gosh, another girl boss character. What are we going to do about this? I'm so tired of these girl boss characters. You saw this from men and women who are in the video game space. It's like, okay, we get it. Enough is enough. And to be clear, I think most people don't care as long as it's not forced and jammed into the game. So with that said, let's talk about that. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Join the 100,000 normal men here on the Side Scrollers podcast channel. Reminder, we'll be back live next week, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Central Time. We'd love for you guys to join us while we're there. Do us a favor, hit the thumbs up button as well. So let's talk about this. I saw this video. One of my favorite creators right now is this guy named Legendary Drops. He is very articulate with how he speaks and in the way he's able to express how many people feel, which is why his channel is blowing up right now. So I want to take about a 3-minute snippet of his latest video. Once again, I'm going to put the entire video down below so you can actually check it out yourself. But this video is called Ghost of Yotoy is a Step Too Far. And he talks a lot about the to start. He talks about the controversy that we just talked about, the idea of a girl boss and all this. And he talks about the pushback and how some of it is justified and some of it is not justified. But I want to take, like I said, about a 3-minute snippet here. So let's go and watch this, and I'll stop and start it as we go along and kind of give you my thoughts on this.
With that said, I don't think it's fair to wave off player criticism. It's pattern recognition and exhaustion. As I mentioned earlier, male roles in PlayStation titles are slowly but surely being eliminated.
He said something there to start, and which is why I wanted to start it there. Pattern recognition. Everybody, like literally everybody see this. I coach youth soccer, right? And I'm talking to these little kids about if you see something and it happens once, okay. If you see it again, okay, I'm starting to see something here. It happens a third time, fourth time, fifth time. Well, then you should probably go do something to prevent that in a soccer game, right? If I'm going to pass it over to the right side 5 times in a row, chances are 6th time it's going to be passed to the right side. So, and that's the big thing is we've seen this over and over again. And this is actually a post from Cabrutus right here, kind of featuring these changes that have taken place when it comes to PlayStation titles in particular. Let's continue.
Corporate initiatives from AAA studios around the world have pushed to make their games more inclusive and diverse, and social political messaging, heavily leaning into one direction, have been forced into many games. It just so happens that many of the games that tend to pander for the sake of pandering, whether it's leadership self-inserting or for tax relief purposes, players have begun to correlate bad games with whatever they perceive as woke or DEI.
True.
And that's the fault of the industry. Corporations are not and should not be, under any circumstances, the arbiters of morality.
Let's take a step back there. I want to listen to that last part again because he says something. He said, sometimes people just say, oh, that's woke because it's bad. And that's what you're doing there is you are delegitimizing your complaint about it. Oh, that's woke, right? There's plenty of woke shit to complain about, right? I'm not on board with the woke train. We all know that, right? But what he does here very well is he points the finger back at the industry. Why are people reacting that way? Ultimately, it's the industry's fault. Listen to this.
Perceive as woke or DEI. And that's the fault of the industry. Corporations are not and should not be, under any circumstances, the arbiters of morality. Diversity, inclusivity, giving players, regardless of their gender, sexuality, or race, games that they can feel represented by or entertainment that they can relate to is an inherently good thing, but it's perverted by personal agendas and self-aggrandizement, leading to products that feel inauthentic and lack quality.
Ding, 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 ding. Nailed it, right? When it's jammed right in your, just down your throat, you're like, okay, I've had enough. And then the finger's pointed at you. You've had enough? Oh, well, you're just a bad person, you istophobe, whatever, right? It's like, no, we've seen this before, right? And it's pattern recognition. It is a trend. It is a trend that we've seen. Push through by personal beliefs, personal agendas in the video game space, otherwise known as activists.
Players didn't have any issues with games like Tomb Raider, Perfect Dark, Silent Hill, Bayonetta, Mirror's Edge, Returnal, Control, and more. Female protagonists aren't the issue. It's the inauthentic way that the industry has handled inclusivity over the last few years that has caused players to recoil at the sight of anything that resembles it.
I say this all the time, right? I grew up in the 80s and the 90s. Do you know how many people cared that Samus was a girl in Metroid? You can count them on one hand. You can count it with 0 fingers. Nobody cared. 0 people cared that Samus was a girl. And this is at a time where the video game industry was, the vast majority was boys, right? Boys were the ones, little boys were the guys who were playing video games back in the 80s, right? And yes, that's changed a little bit over that. The demographics have shifted a little bit, not that much, but nobody cared. It was just like, oh, that's cool. Like, that's literally how it went. Oh, cool. It wasn't like, whoa, game changer, you know? And that's just it. Nobody cared about Tomb Raider. Nobody cared about any of these other situations. It just, when it became part of the personality of the game and it became part of the personality of the people making the game to inject it in the game, that's when people had an issue.
And it doesn't help matters that games media is always there to fan the flames of outrage, baiting for more clicks.
You don't
Look,
say.
I'll prove it's all bullshit. The Washington Post, Kotaku, and Polygon criticized Ghost of Tsushima for its unfaithful representation of Japanese history and the samurai. Crazy enough, the Polygon article titled Ghost of Tsushima, Kurosawa, and the Political Myth of the Samurai perceived issues with Ghost of Tsushima because they don't believe in the Bushido Code, saying that the themes of loyalty and honor aren't real and are merely tools that are used by the center and alt-right Japanese politicians.
It's always those people in the center and the alt-right. Oh, wait. Who wrote this article?
The writer of this article was none other than Kazuma Hashimoto, the same ex-Sweet Baby Incorporated employee that covered for Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed Shadows in a recent New York Times article, saying that the backlash over the game was just a minority of Western gamers, flip-flopping from historical accurate samurais in Ghost of Tsushima to defending the legitimacy of Yasuke in Assassin's Creed.
If I can just do my best shocked face, just wow, who would have thought, right? Who would have thought that was the situation? By the way, I have a very big problem if you worked within the industry and then you start to write about the industry, unless it's like an op-ed piece, right? If you're like, there's definitely a conflict of interest right there. And this person went from activist in the industry to activist in the media. Once again, creating, I've talked about this many, many times, the cavernous divide between the people making the games, the people writing about the games, and then the people who are playing the games over here. This divide is like, it's like they have no idea that who their audience is. It's insane. Let's continue. We're almost done here. By the way, go subscribe to Legendary Drops. It's a phenomenal channel.
How does that make any sense? This backlash isn't just about Ghost of Yotei specifically, but it reflects the broader frustration with how modern gaming and the media has integrated social agendas, but more specifically, personal agendas. Players aren't resistant to change or diversity inherently.
Listen to this part, and I'm going to play it back one more time. He hits the nail on the head.
Specifically, personal agendas. Players aren't resistant to change or diversity inherently. They're tired of feeling like everything is shoehorned in for corporate virtue signaling rather than genuine creative decisions. They're sick of the mixed messaging from games media and being chastised for calling it out. When inclusivity is inherent and authentic, it can enhance the experience. However, when it's perceived as forced or disingenuous, it alienates players and sparks these kind of controversies. If we look at the most popular games of this last year, they all feel like a system shock more than anything else. Pal World was Pokemon with slavery. Helldivers 2 brought us back a feeling of community. Space Marine 2 was a dude bro callback to the 360 days. Black Myth Wukong, authentic storytelling in a setting that we rarely see. But none of these games ever felt like they had any sort of agenda, because they didn't. It's like people don't realize that Our two best evolutionary traits are opposable thumbs and pattern recognition. Both of them we use while playing video games. So damn straight, players are going to notice patterns. They're going to see things. They're going to call it out, and you're going to get some pushback. They're going to take notice when they see things going in a direction that they don't want.
Let's take that a step further, actually. He talked about the games that have been successful. Let's talk about the games that failed miserably this year, right? Games like Dustborn, games like Concord, games like Star Wars Outlaws, pretty much the entire Ubisoft slate, right? There's like, 2024, I think will be looked back on as a year that the audience, the gamers, the consumers, the customers, more importantly, the customer spoke with their wallet. And hopefully this begins the catastrophic shift back to common sense along the way. Look, there's much more to that video. I encourage you to go watch it. Once again, I'll put a link down below. Go subscribe to the Legendary Drops channel. And since you're already here, make sure you subscribe to our channel and join the 100,000 normal men who have found common sense in the video game entertainment space. Appreciate you guys popping in. Go watch another video here. Go subscribe right here. See you guys later.